at 9:59, Gary. Get what I need. Thank you, Mary. And you let me know when you're ready. Okay. All right. We'll convene the Dubuque County Board of Supervisors meeting Monday, August 3rd, 2020, 10 a.m. Good morning. Good morning. I guess I should have checked to make sure that you all could hear me, but all right. The meeting is being conducted both in person and by Zoom. And to the agenda. First thing would be a work session to discuss COVID-related issues. And we will first go to Patrice Lambert, our Director of our Health Department, Dubuque County Health Department, for her report.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm sorry, I should double check. Thank you very much. Good morning. I'm just going to start off by just telling you what our numbers are real briefly, knowing that these numbers will be updated within the hour. But currently, with Dubuque County, we've had 19,564 individuals tested. Out of that, we've had 1,514 that have tested positive. Out of that, we've had 727 that have recovered, and unfortunately, we are up to 29 deaths. We are, as you probably have noticed, we are doing in our daily updates a new section with our testing and positivity rate. Randy Gale has changed the format a little bit, and I think it's very easy to read. But as you'll see, yesterday we had our test positivity rate was 10.6%, and on Saturday it was 9.3%. So the average that we've had to date so far is 7.7%. And I'm sorry, I should say that the positivity rate is the percentage of the COVID-19 tests that come back positive. We do need to keep our eye on that date or on that percentage, because that will be playing somewhat into the role of looking at our school absenteeism once schools do begin to open. We're really going to be looking at that average positivity rate if it reaches 15% or higher, because that will be our earmark of looking at the possibility of doing possibly a closure to a school building or whatever the case may be. So again, Randy, I think, has done an excellent job updating that on the daily updates. And please just keep your eye on that, as we will be as well. We still only have one long-term care that is designated an outbreak. That has not changed since the last time I believe that we have met. And as you may or may not know, I was one of the 10 county health directors that did send a letter to the governor asking for her to mandate masks. To my knowledge, we have not had a response back to that letter as of yet. We did, I'm sure I had informed you last week as well, but we did meet with our higher education representatives last week, and the meeting went very, very well. We are going to now be meeting with our pre-K through 12 representatives this week. We'll probably actually have to hold a couple of meetings with pre-K through 12. We have been notified that we will be getting some new recommendations from IDPH soon at the start of this week. So we'll keep you informed on whatever those new updates would be. I'm sure you're all aware as well that Dubuque, as well as Dubuque County, is through the White House Task Force, is now considered in a red zone. So the incident management team is keeping our eyes and our ears very, very, very in tune to our numbers right now. And we're also looking, or not even looking, I wanted to share that the governor is now going to be holding 2 press conferences a week now, every Tuesday and every Thursday at 11 a.m. And that is going to be broadcasted on the Iowa PBS channel. So more information will probably be coming each Tuesday and Thursday from our governor. And before I turn it over to Stacy to give her update, and Tom Berger, I also just wanted to share that Samantha, our temp in our office, has our Facebook for Dubuque County Board of Health and Dubuque County Health Department up and running. So we're going to attempt to post news at least on a daily basis on our Facebook. So that's pretty exciting for us, since we've had actually a site up and running, but have just not had the time to post anything. But Samantha will be in charge of that now. So Stacy, would you like to just give a quick update?
Patrice, can I interrupt
Sure.
you?
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, sure.
Excuse me, Stacy. I'd like to ask Patrice some questions.
I'm sorry.
So,
Sure,
Patrice,
I'm sorry.
thank you, obviously, for your letter to the governor. My contacts to her office go unanswered, so I'm not surprised that you're not getting a response either. But I wanted to ask you a question. I actually have 2, but one concerns the positivity rate. I don't understand why we are concerned about the cumulative average. That's old news. That goes all the way back to March, right?
Correct.
So aren't we really focused on the daily rate, like within the last week?
Are we what, Ann? I'm sorry, you just spoke up. I heard that.
Aren't we really focused on the positivity rate within the last week?
Absolutely, we are.
Right.
We are.
Representative Shannon Lundgren posts every day the cumulative rate. She's got us at 7.75% or something. And, that includes days where we had like nobody positive.
Correct. Yes, and we're really focusing in, and Randy is putting that in on our daily update. What our yesterday's, he'll always look at yesterday's positivity rate as well as that 14 average percentage, because it's that 14-day percentage that we really need to keep our eye on. But I'm sorry, Ann?
Is that the criteria for deciding what the schools are going to do? Are they looking at a 14-day average, or are they looking at the last 3 days, or you know, we did have a 23% average one day.
Correct. And it's my understanding, but I'll know much more after the start of this week, because I'll be honest, I have not been able to dive into all of the documents that they have sent out since Friday evening. But it's my understanding that we'll be looking at that 14-day average positivity rate when we look at schools.
Okay,
It's
great.
Again, I'll know much more information, hopefully even by the end of today, Ann. But
Great.
and I can email and let you know for sure. But it's my understanding it's that 14-day average that we will be focused on.
My other question concerns action taken by the Board of Health at Wednesday evening's meeting, where it was decided that they would recommend or maybe go forward in hiring a marketing firm or a marketing individual to promote masks, to promote wearing face masks. And I wanted to confirm that that's happening and beginning soon. I don't know the date. I don't know the cost. I don't know that that's that relevant to me so much as we begin quickly. But also I want to be sure that it is going to be focused not just on the city of Dubuque, but throughout the county of Dubuque. The CDC and Dr. Birx this morning, I think I think it was yesterday, that it has clearly spread in the Midwest to all the rural communities as well. It is highly contagious, rural and urban. So we do need to be focused on our smaller communities and spreading the message there as well about the need to wear a face mask.
Yes, and I agree, Ann, 100%. And please know that anything that the incident management team does, and I know that the Board of Health as well, anything we do for the residents of the county. We don't focus in on just one community. But yes, I appreciate what you're saying. And with the incident management team, all of our conversations are county-based.
When will the marketing begin?
Diane Freiberger, I know, is going to be giving an update on this agenda. Tom Beshin was unable to attend this morning. So I'm thinking that she is going to give an update. And if she doesn't on that, then I will look it up and I'll have that information before she is finished with her report.
Thank you, Patrice.
Sure.
Patrice, this is Supervisor Wickham. I've got a question or two for you as well.
Sure.
Okay, I want to make sure you can hear me. So I'd be interested in one kind of your assessment and comment related to basically in the last 2 weeks, the whole number, both daily and whole over the last 14 days for testing has gone down. And that does coincide with the governor changing their allowances for testing at Epic Health Center. At the same time, the number of positive tests have gone down, and so has slightly the testing rate. But what would your comment be related to we're testing less people, and therefore we're finding we have less positive whole numbers? And my question then would be, do we plan to do anything about changing the number of testing we're doing on a daily basis?
Sure. And I can start with your last and then move to your first. We were informed over the weekend, probably the same time that you were, that Hardix is now going to be offering testing as well, which Ed probably will have some more information on that, as well as I know Diane Freiberger will be mentioning some, I'm thinking she is, and if she doesn't, I'll come back and share that with Test Iowa, that Kelly McMahon is going to be continuing to do the testing by appointments, but I'll let Diane inform you of more of those details. So I think in this next, for sure, even starting today, we'll probably see another increase in our testing because Union Pharmacy continues to do their testing as well. And we do have one of our incident management team members meets with the healthcare providers on a weekly basis. And they have been informing us that they are continuing to do their testing, but again, they have to meet, most of them have to meet the criteria of the state hygienic lab, but within their own office. we do have those 2,000 collection kits that we were able to secure with Dr. Padati and Dr. Ann Garvey. And we all last week had conversation with our healthcare providers, and we believe that we might be able to have a healthcare provider that will be utilizing some of those collection kits, concentrating on our contact tracing population. And that will be in conjunction with the Visiting Nurse Association, because as you know, Stacy and her team, even though we have our contact tracing turned over to the Iowa Department of Public Health, Stacy and her team continue to make a personal phone call to any of our county residents that are positive. So Stacy will have a means then of discussing who the contact tracers are and who should be tested and where they can possibly be tested. So I know that was a lot to your question.
Sure, maybe a simple question. Maybe a simple question.
Sure, sorry.
We were averaging 350 to 400 tests a day. And then when the state changed Epic's requirements, we're now half that. When will we get back to 350 to 400 a day? When will that occur?
I'm guessing very, very soon. Now that Harding's will be opening up and Union Pharmacy will be continuing and Epic Health will be continuing with their Test Iowa. So I'm guessing
so then my first part of my
the
that's
end of this
good
week.
enough. So I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later, because we've just, for 2 weeks, we've gone backwards. We've gone backwards related to testing and the testing demand that the population wants. So my question then would be, what would be your summation of we're testing less? You can almost say half the amount of people we were testing before, and we're now coming up with half or maybe a little more, a little less amount of positives. What would your analysis of that be over the last 2 weeks?
I guess I'm not understanding how you want me to answer that question, because we were decreased in our testing and we did see a decrease in our positives. I don't know how to answer that, only to say that we do know that, what, I'm sorry?
I guess my summary as a broadcast journalism major and being 54-year-old on the planet is that we're seeing less positives over the last 2 weeks because we're testing less. You could just follow the math. And so I don't know if that was planned, if that's what, the desired outcome was, but I would really like to get back to the baseline that we had for testing. And I would really love to see, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see our positive rates go down, and I'd love to see the total number of positives go down. But merely testing less people and then having less positives does not make our community any safer. And that's the direction we've been doing in the last 2 weeks. So I would implore you, the incident management team, and all of those responsible to get this community back to the level we were for testing, so we know the amount of community spread we're facing. If we do not do that, we will not know, and we will just have less numbers of positives. It doesn't mean we'll have less number of people walking around with COVID-19. We'll just have less numbers to report. That's my summary. And so hopefully somebody else, I don't know if anyone else is doing the numbers or watching the numbers, but I think those are the things that can guide us. So thank you.
Absolutely, I agree. I agree 100%, Jane.
Patrice, Dave Baker, I had a question for you as well. You talked about some other area providers. So the question I have, I think it was probably just a few weeks ago, maybe it's a month, it seems like a year, but that some of the providers are or were using the old original criteria from the CDC and IDPH, and instead of the, what I guess I would call the more aggressive current criteria. Do you know which providers are using the current criteria versus the original criteria that was in place when we didn't have any tests or didn't have enough tests. Is that something that you're aware of, or can you check into that?
We can check into that because I am not aware. I am aware, though, that all healthcare providers do receive from IDPH any change in criteria. Everyone receives that at the same time. So I would only assume that our healthcare providers are up to date with all of that criteria. But sure, we can check into that, Dave.
Yeah, and maybe Ed Raber can expand on that a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that at least one of our providers chose to use the older, less aggressive criteria that was in place when there weren't enough tests to go around. But I'd ask you to check on that and get back to me. And then I do have a comment from chat from Diane Freiberger that Epic Health and Wellness Clinic will be increasing testing to 27 hours per week from 8 hours last week. That's on our chat on Zoom here. So.
Good.
So that's good.
I knew Diane would give an update. Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Patrice. Any other questions for Patrice before we go to Stacy Killian?
Just the last comment. Patrice, I'd just like to thank you for your direction and your leadership in signing the document with the other public health directors to the governor to indicate a mask mandate. So I think that was a very wise and proper move. So appreciate your leadership on that.
Well, thank you.
Patrice, Supervisor Baker, you've already heard from Supervisors McDonough and Wickham on the letter. I was very pleased at the that you signed on to that letter and took the initiative to do that, and I support you 100% on that.
Well, thank you as well.
Okay. All right. At this point, if there's no more questions for Patrice, but of course, Patrice, stand by because there probably will be some additional ones.
Yep.
Stacy Killian. Stacy, if you want to give your report.
Sure. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
The DNA current to date has received 14,980 contacts from the public regarding COVID. We are continuing to work with Grand Meadows on their outbreak status, providing daily follow-up guidance and information. They continue to stand at 3 positive cases, which is wonderful that they have not increased. VNA is continuing to provide daily check-ins to any facilities experiencing at least 1 positive. VNA is currently following up daily with 6 different facilities. We are continuing to support Test Iowa with our weekly conference calls and then also sending staffing support as needed. And beginning this week, and Patrice somewhat touched on this, VNA is going to start expanding a little bit of our contact tracing, focusing on increasing testing. So as we're talking to the positive cases when they come in each day, we're going to try to connect out to some of those close contacts and make sure that they know how to get signed up for testing, where they can go, and hopefully start increasing that testing that we were just talking about earlier. I think there's definitely some work there that could be done to improve contacting those who are in close contact of a positive. So we will be beginning that this week and trying to provide some assistance with testing. I know at our Board of Health meeting on Wednesday there were some questions about whether or not VNA would be able to continue to assist signing people up with Test Iowa. Both Patrice and myself met with Iowa Department of Public Health, and then we also submitted a request to allow VNA to continue signing people up using a secured email here at our agency. We have not gotten a response yet from the state, but we will continue to try because we believe that there's definitely a need there and that's something that we can continue to provide. And then finally, to date, I don't know that I've given this before, We've given out over 1,114 thermometers to people in the community, both positive cases and those that are monitoring at home and may not have thermometers, and we'll continue to provide that service, ordering more thermometers as needed. Thank you.
Stacey Ann
Thank
McDonough,
you,
I have a couple
Stacey.
questions.
Sure.
Well, really one. And maybe Patrice is going to need to answer this, but of the positive tests, are those folks being retested? Like, for instance, I know that before a person can come to the isolation shelter, if they're coming from another area, they have to be tested, right? They come to the isolation shelter, we get a test to confirm whether or not they have COVID, and that goes into our count of numbers of folks that are tested. But some people
Sure.
get tested several times. So when we talk about the numbers of tests completed, are those still unique to each person, or do they represent the fact that several of our employees at Sunnycrest have been tested numerous times because of the different types that we have, a positive case, and so we need to do contact tracing?
And I can answer that, Anne. That is, they only count the individuals. So if someone is tested multiple times, they still only count it as once. And we did verify that with our state epidemiologist. So they only count the individual. They don't count the multiple times that they're tested.
So then how many tests total have been done? If we're not counting those people 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times,
yes,
how many unique tests have been done?
I don't know that. I will check. I'll let you know. I have no idea how many total tests have been done. But I'll do some checking with our local state epidemiologist. In fact, I'll try and email him right now. I don't know if he's in. So,
well,
but I know that they only count per individual.
Yeah, I don't understand that, because I mean, it changes the numbers, it changes the percentage. If it's right now, I think the total count in Dubuque County means there's every fourth person's been tested. Well, that doesn't reflect my reality. I don't know who those folks are. In my world, not many people have been tested because most folks are home. And so they don't have symptoms and they're not being tested.
Right, but we do know in Dubuque County the individuals tested, so that's the 19,564. But because they only count the individual, we don't know out of those 19,564 how many have been tested 2 or 3 or more times, because they're only counted per the individual.
Right, because we don't have access to all the numbers, there's all kinds of kind of, screwball math going on, obviously, right? So some people have to get tested frequently because they are frontline and there's positives happening around them. So that's still one test, but that person may be tested a total of 6 times to date. We don't know.
Right.
There's right. There's a medical provider in this community who indicates that they test 600 people a week. They're not in any of the numbers that I know of. That's tests before surgeries. That's persons who are asymptomatic, but we're trying to confirm. If you go to the dentist and you're going to have some work, I think you get tested. So, there's a lot of testing going on. It would be interesting to know how many tests have been done and how many were done by Test Iowa versus about any other provider. How widely in Dubuque can you get a test? Are they in dental clinics? Are they, if you're going to have a colonoscopy, I know you get a test.
Yeah, and I don't know that answer, Anne, but I will, like I said, I'll contact our state epidemiologist on that.
Thank you. It would be good to know, even if they are not going to share, it might help us. I don't know if it clouds the numbers and the data that Supervisor Wickham's looking at, but I think there's a bigger picture of the testing component that we're not all aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Patrice and Stacy. Are there any other questions for Stacy Killian? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is our update from our Sunnycrest Administrator, Chris Kurz. So, Chris, if you would provide your information.
I will. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
So here at Sunnycrest Manor, I have 6 residents in our level 1 isolation. Friday night, I received notice that one of our housekeepers tested positive for COVID. And to your comments, Anne, this employee actually presented to the emergency room for a personal issue, and per their protocol, tests everybody in the emergency room, and was notified Friday night that they tested positive for COVID. Did not present to the emergency room for COVID, presented for something else. Has not worked since Tuesday, so we were happy about that. And is part-time, like I said, not a direct care worker. So Saturday, we tested all residents that this person may or may not have come in contact with related to this person's schedule. Those test results are already back. I received those last night. And they all came back negative. We were able to send to the lab 14 this morning, additional, of staff that that person may or may not have come in contact with. And shout out to Tom Berger, who I was in contact with this weekend. He is sending a courier to the state hygienic lab because I ordered testing kits from the state hygienic lab, and Tom Berger is sending a courier down there to get us some more testing kits so those staff clinics can continue today. For the media and social media, that's my love. This is my 5th staff person that has tested positive since the beginning. I want to make it clear, there are some family members that are kind of freaking out due to social media saying we have 5 positives. We do not. 3 of them have returned to work and are quite healthy. The 4th positive test will return to work this week, and then we had this one on Friday night. So it is not 5 active cases. It is 5 total. I want to make that very clear, and I ask for your help in this communication to your public, that it is 5 total from the very beginning. I appreciate any assistance you can give. There are families and residents that hear and see this in media and on social media. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Dave Baker here. You reported on your level 1 isolation that there were 6. Is level 2 and 3 still 0?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. I thought that was the case. But, all right. Any questions for Chris Kirsch? Chris, of the 5 positive tests for employees over the 4 months or whatever it is, are any of those, is that 5 different employees, or did any one individual test positive twice?
No, there are 5 different individuals. They're all community-based positive. And like I said, this last one presented for an injury. Was asymptomatic and per their protocol tested. So it happens.
Yes, it does. And I think, Chris, as I said Friday on the Voices in the Tri-States, I think that you and your team are setting a good example for the long-term care facilities on, getting word out, being open and transparent when there are positive cases. So thank you for that, and please keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. It's just, I didn't even know there was a Voices of Dubuque, and yeah, there's a lot of chatter, and I hear it second and third hand, and we do not have 5 cases here. Please help me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Okay, any other questions for Chris?
None for Chris, but I would like to pose a question either to Stacy, Tom, or Patrice, if the chair would allow.
Of course.
Okay, so Supervisor McDonough got me thinking. So my first question would be to whoever thinks they're authority on it. Are all positive tests, all positive cases, positive tests reported to the state and reported on their website? That's my first question.
They are. Yes, they are.
Stacy, can you confirm that?
Yes, they are all reported.
Okay.
It is required by law that the healthcare providers report that test.
Got it. That's what I thought. So, all right. So now we're going to go in the gray area. So what's your understanding? And so my question would be, are all tests done for COVID-19 reported to the same state hygienic lab or the same reporting system? Are all tests that are done by medical providers sent to the state and included in those numbers?
Jay, I can answer that.
They are.
They are.
Go ahead,
I've seen the negative tests in our state system, so I do know that even negatives are reported out.
And can I also add, if you go to the dashboard and go to the main page, and then there will be a box that says, positive case analysis. If you hit that, then you'll get the map of Iowa. If you click on Dubuque County itself, then right above Dubuque County, it will give the data as such as yesterday. I still can't find the total, but yesterday it will say individuals for Dubuque County that were tested was 117. Out of that, the individuals that were negative, it says 101, and individuals positive were 16. And then it has the percentage of the individuals positive were 13.7.
Got it.
Sorry,
I watch that every day. And hopefully, can I just stay on my question? Because I get the dashboard, and if anyone else needs dashboard education, I'd be happy to spend time with that. But that's not my question. So I just want to confirm that what our leaders in our medical community are telling us, that be you, Patrice, emergency management, Tom, you're saying that all positives are reported to the website. You're also telling me that all medical providers are also reporting their tests, positive or negative, to the same site. So this is a comprehensive site for Dubuque County. Is that accurate?
This is Patrice, and I can honestly say we know that all health care providers, whatever lab they send their test to, if it's outside of the state hygienic lab, they still have to report any positive to IDPH. What I'm trying to figure out is if they do the negative as well. Stacy or Tom, do you know? I can check with Scott, but I know that they are required to submit any positive to Iowa Department of Public Health.
Yeah,
yes,
that was my first question. I got two strongs on the positives, cool on the positives. I got 2 confirmation on there. If you don't know now, please find out for our next meeting, Board of Health or supervisors. Do the medical communities, are they required to post or to report all the other testings. Obviously, if they're not positive, they would be negative or maybe inconclusive, that they at least completed a test. That's what I'd be interested in knowing. And so my assumption had been that this was generally a pretty accurate summation of our testing going on in Dubuque County. But what was discussed earlier is that it wasn't even close. And so I need that confirmation so I know what numbers are going on. I'll actually feel a little better if we have 500 tests that are going on that aren't positive, that are occurring, that aren't reported. Then that would bring statistically our numbers and our percentages way down. Would tell me we would have much less community spread. But I don't want to jump to that because I have straight answers now. So if we can get confirmation on the medical community when they're doing tests, are all of those tests reported, regardless of the outcome? That's the big question we're trying to get.
Yeah.
It's very important to understanding what's happening in our community. So if you could do that for Wednesday's Board of Health meeting or next meeting for Monday, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Absolutely. Sure. And
thank you, Supervisor McDonough, for bringing that question up. So I'm glad we have the opportunity to understand or at least get it clarity, because I would hate to be wrong in my looking at the numbers.
Right. And the other thing that I've been told is that understand that our medical providers are a tri-state area. So when a medical provider says, I'm doing 600 tests a week, they might be reporting to Wisconsin, to Illinois. I mean, they may be reporting those results back to, we're the center of medical care, but the citizens coming to that are coming from other jurisdictions. So the math is not, I'm hoping it's as simple as what's on the dashboard, but I'm not sure that does reflect what's really being accomplished in our community.
Yeah, and if that's the case, it means we're in better shape. So if we are doing, 500 more tests a day and they aren't coming back positive, I'm happy with that. I doubt that's the case, but I want confirmation on that. The Illinois and Wisconsin would be a small fraction, but it would skew slightly. But we need to know where these numbers are derived and what level of confidence we can get from them.
And can I also get back to your question just real briefly, that on that dashboard, it does have for Dubuque County all of the tests. I was going to email Scott, but it is on there for Dubuque County that there's been 19,671 individuals tested. So, but we'll follow up on your question as well, Jay.
I have a question for you, Patrice, along the same lines. I know that from time to time there are adjustments made on the dashboard, and I think the reporting doesn't necessarily line up with the time period that they use for the dashboard. So occasionally you'll see a note in there that they've made an adjustment. Is there a standardized reporting time or day or period of time for the medical providers to report? Or this is probably an extreme example. Can they sit on it for a month and then report at the end of the month? I hope that's not the case. But do you know about the reporting timelines? Because it could skew the numbers if they were allowed to accumulate them and report them, on the last day of the month.
Sure. It's my understanding that it's the labs that actually report those numbers to IDPH. So as they run their tests, they submit to IDPH. And our common time for reporting is now 11 a.m. to 11 a.m. in that 24-hour time frame. And if you do see sometimes, that the numbers have been readjusted, that might be that there was confusion in the county that the person actually resided in. So they would come back and clarify a county. So one county you might see B-2, and then another county might be +1 or +2, wherever that confusion was when the person was filling out their paperwork. Because of the county lines, I know that has been some confusion of which county the individual actually resides in. But the common time frame is 11 a.m. to 11 a.m. in that 24-hour time frame now.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Patrice? Thank you. We'll move to the emergency management team update, and Tom Berger, our manager of emergency management services, director.
Hi, Dave.
And I think Tom is on. Good morning, Tom.
Give you an update. We are still receiving, we had an uptick in PPE requests, I think, which kind of coincide with the numbers that have been chatted about for the last hour. We are still able to get the requests in from the state. So working with the healthcare facilities, there's a certain list of people that are eligible or facilities that are eligible for the PPE from the state. So getting that in, as well as securing our 30-day emergency stockpile of masks and gowns. So that's currently, most of it is in a warehouse in Cedar Rapids. We did send somebody down last week and bring back some of that. So we're working on getting that to Dubuque, and we'll be storing that for a major surge again. But we're still working with our local healthcare providers, fire, EMS, and procuring the PPE from the state that they're not able to get because they're on allocation or not able to get from their providers now. So with that, our EOC meeting was canceled last week due to a conflict, I think mainly with the legislative fly-in dinner that they had, or not dinner, but webinar meetings. So that will go on as scheduled. So I think that's, unless anybody has any questions on the logistics side of it.
Okay. Tom, I had a question. This is Dave Baker. I had forwarded to you, and I think it was a solicitation, but it appears that there are some vendors that have PPE available. Are regular suppliers, I'll use Medline as an example, are they catching up on being able to provide PPE, including isolation gowns, disposable gowns, et cetera?
Most of the, I think Medline is still using allocation. I know Dubuque Fire works with them for that because Medline is a good company that's not charging 2 to 3 times the rate for the PPE. If you look at some of the solicitations and emails we get, they are, if I forward them on to people that I know of having trouble getting that, they'll reply back and say it's 2 to 3 times the price that that local businesses are normally charged if they have the supplies. So I think that's some of the solicitations we're getting now. If people are able to acquire them, they're trying to resell them for quite a bit more than what the normal cost is.
Okay. So I guess my point was if some of these, even if they're predatory, I'm not saying we do business with them, but that must mean that there are some supply. There is a supply out there. I'm not sure how they get their hands on them, and maybe that's a different issue. But I guess, are we hearing from the Medlines of the world that we're getting, caught up? Because I think when Medline, I think they were monitoring the usage on kind of a look-back basis, so that people weren't going to be hoarding or stockpiling. But we all know that the need is probably greater Does Medline and some of the other suppliers need help in acquiring or finding sources of these products?
I think, as I understand it, the federal government is not intervening and taking a lot of the PPE that's coming out of China now. So I think the supply chain is open up. I would have to double check with Medline. I'm not sure where they buy their equipment from or where they get it. So I guess I can't answer that.
Okay, all right. Maybe you could check and just see what the overall outlook is for gowns and that type of thing. So appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions for Tom Berger?
None from me.
Hearing none. Okay, thank you. All right, testing update. I think we'll go to Ed Raber for testing update.
This is Ed Raber. Thank you, Chair Baker. The only thing that I would add to that is that I've already been in contact during the meeting here with Patrice and Stacy, and I'm going to try to assist them or with that follow up to tease out some of that data that Jay was asking about. I've had some of the same questions myself, so we'll try to circle back and have an answer that we can provide some information even before the next meeting. We won't wait for that. My understanding is that the Test Iowa site, Test Iowa Clinic program is still working with Epic Health and Wellness, and they're trying to finalize their online scheduling portal. So right now it's a call. I think they're hoping that as they ramp back up to higher test levels, that it will be something that you can link to right from the Test Iowa assessment site to do an online, schedule yourself for an online window to get tested here. That's the way it works with Iowa's own Test Iowa sites in other communities, and I think that would be an aid for the community. There was some other discussion about some other free options for individuals that are at a couple of local pharmacies. True North has 8 locations that they're partnering with across the state of Iowa. Of those 8, 3 are a Hardig drugstore in Dubuque, and another one is Union Pharmacy, so half of those locations are in Dubuque. I've had some communication with Union, and I've reached out to CEO at Hardig just to get some more information. I hope to have a little bit better feel. There was some communication with the Board of Health's medical liaison, Bobby Knauer, over the weekend, just trying to pull all that together, and I'll be providing that. If there's anything new through that, I'll be providing that for the Board of Health on their meeting on Wednesday, and to the Board of Supervisors. As far as other medical providers potentially being a Test Iowa clinic, those discussions continue to be ongoing and evaluated by the state and local providers. So I share the concern that we get back to having more testing. The only other analysis that I might provide for Supervisor Wickham, as he was asking about testing, positive tests going up and down in relation to the number of tests, there conceivably could also be some bearing that a lot of those positives, including positives that were found at private medical providers, not the Test Iowa Clinic, may have been due to the incubation period for the virus after, say, the 4th of July weekend, where I think that was a real hot spot for us, and we're just beyond that now. So there could be some other things at play there, but I certainly don't discount the effect of just not doing as many tests, having something else, being a major contributor to just having fewer positive test results. So we'll continue to work on that and try to get the best information we can for the supervisors, the Board of Health, and the Dubuque County public.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Any questions for Ed Raber? Okay, we'll move forward on the agenda. We have our Board of Health update, and included in that is a resolution joining the Board of Supervisors with the Board of Health, encouraging the wearing of face masks. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Diane Freiberger, chairperson for the Board of Health.
Thank you, Chair Baker. I am actually the vice chair of the Board of Health. Tom Beschen is our chair.
Yeah, I was notified by Tom, so that's why today you're the chairperson.
Okay, thank you. This has been interesting conversation this morning. And we met last Wednesday night on July 29th, and we did have a quorum. We were able to vote on many items. We added 2 new Board of Health members, Katie Jones and Corey Allen Young, that will be joining us at our meeting this Wednesday night. With mask advertising, thank you for the questions, Supervisor McDonough, regarding if we are going to be advertising throughout the whole county, and the answer is a definite yes. There are going to be billboards that will go up throughout the whole county. There will be social media throughout the whole county, which could be beyond that also. And all the advertising will be throughout the whole county. We discussed proposals. We had 3 proposals from advertisers, from advertising agents, and we had chosen Lou Supply Company at a cost of $8,600 total with that. With that, there will be the billboard advertising, commercial advertising, and media advertising, and then a cost for her services, a minimal cost for her services, might I add. And then we also had discussed equity. With the equity, Tom Beschen and Susie Stroud had met on July 17th, and they made a recommendation to the Board of Health that we do not develop a separate equity committee on the Board of Health, but we could have a liaison or a representative on a county equity committee. With testing, I have actually been in direct contact with Kelly McMahon. And even though I shared this last week at the Board of Health meeting, many individuals within the public do not have this information. Kelly actually had received contacts from the governor's office that they were going to withdraw the limit of 100 tests per day. And actually she has unlimited numbers of tests per day that she will be given by the governor's office. They stated that they had received incorrect information in making that decision, and they admitted that they discovered no quality concerns with Epic Health and Wellness testing. The only qualification there that they wanted to see changed is that they wanted everyone to be scheduled for an appointment. They did not want long lines along Cedar Cross Road. And they also did not want remote sites at this time. Individuals in the public go onto the Test Iowa site and get their assessment done. At the very end, it will ask whether everyone's qualified to be tested right now. And so it will ask if you want to go to one of the Test Iowa sites, or do you want to be tested at your local provider. I've had phone calls all weekend from individuals that are saying, I want to be tested, but I can't see it on the website. Well, that's because you have to choose, I want to be tested at a local provider. Then the clinics will come up, and then you just have to scroll to through the clinics, and Dubuque Epic will be listed there. Their phone number is 563-582-1000. They have adopted a application that they're going to start using this week, and they are actually putting it on their website so individuals can go ahead and schedule their own time. And actually, they're going to use the same one that the courthouse is using. Thank you, Supervisor McDonough, for suggesting that. And the questions that were asked earlier are that Patrice referred to me. I do not remember what those were. Patrice, did you have anything specific that I needed to address with that? Okay. And I just wanted to add also that we continue with having a testing committee with the Board of Health, and that is Dr. Bobby Canero, myself. I had made contact with him when I heard that Union was going to be that Hardig's was going to be doing the same testing that is being offered through Union Pharmacy, and we discussed questions that we needed answered. And all of the testing is free through the federal government, so individuals know that. And the site for that is, do I need a test? If people want to go into that, it's the anterior nasal where they just go inside the nose with a short swab. And they do not do it for you. They actually hang it on your mirror. You do it yourself. With the public comments that we received last week at the Board of Health meeting, Kate Parks presented a letter from 5 members of the Dubuque Community School District requesting a mask mandate. And we do have a meeting scheduled for this Wednesday night, which is August 5th at 5:30 p.m. And that will be our regularly scheduled meeting for that had already been previously set up. Are there any questions?
Diana, Dave Baker, I had a couple questions. You gave some information and updated on the Test Iowa and the situation with Epic. And you mentioned that the state is not allowing or does not want any remote sites. So I have, from this chair, given Epic kudos, pat on the back, if you will, for their taking initiative to go outside the box, go out to Epworth, where I understand they were greeted with a line of about 200 vehicles doing remote testing at Epworth at the fire department. And Crescent Community Health, they went to Macokota, and to me, they got their hands slapped for doing that, and I just don't understand that. So was there any explanation given by the state as to why going out in some of the rural areas or the, places where transportation might be a barrier, such as Crescent Community Health? Because, not everybody has 2 or 3 vehicles to run out to the west side. I'm not aware that that's on the bus route. So have they given any thought to that? And while I'm on that, it's a 2-part question. Have we been given an explanation about why the VNA was not allowed to help folks with technology issues in getting signed up to take the test? Have they answered that, why that was not allowed? Because it appeared that, they were helping people with technology issues, and it almost looked like they were trying to hold the numbers down by not allowing VNA to help those folks. So kind of a 2-part question. Yeah.
Supervisor Baker, I believe that Stacy Killian in her comments earlier with the update had said that, that they had sat down with individuals from IDPH and discussed that with them. I know that in that discussion, each county runs differently with their health departments. We have a minimal staff with our health department, and we are so fortunate to have VNA as our partners. Some of the discussion was related to HIPAA. and they were not aware that VNA is actually our partners in this, and that they follow all the HIPAA requirements that any Board of Health would, or any health department would follow. So with that, I appreciate all that they did with doing that, and they have made the request again with the IDPH to see if they could continue to help individuals with that. So for right now, from what Stacy said earlier, they have not been given that approval yet. They have not gotten any response back yet. And as far as the information regarding the why they've been requested not to do other remote sites, I believe that when sites are set up throughout the whole state, the assumption is that other providers are also going to be doing testing, not just through Test Iowa. And, you know, and Kelly and I did not discuss this other than this was what the governor's office had told her.
Okay, all right. I appreciate your answers. If there was a question on the VNA, I'm really surprised that somebody wouldn't have contacted Patrice Lambert or Stacy Killian to find out if VNA was a trusted partner and not an outside contractor in this case.
I would have to refer that to Patrice to answer whether they had been notified or asked earlier, and I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate that.
But I do need to comment that Kelly McMahon and her staff have always provided the health needs, or put the health needs of the community first, and they provided quality care. There's not been an issue with that at all.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you, Diane. Okay. Do we have any questions for Diane Freiberger from the?
None for me.
What? Okay.
Diane and McDonough, that was a great meeting on Wednesday. It was. You accomplished a lot. We had new board members observing, even though they were not beginning until the first of the month. So well done. I thought everyone, I appreciated that there was a quorum and you got through a lot of information.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Diane. Next item on the agenda then is the resolution regarding the Board of Supervisors with the Board of Health encouraging the wearing of face masks.
Chair Baker, if I might, we received an email, I think fairly, well, it was right before our meeting, basically, this morning from our county attorney saying that it really should be a proclamation and not a resolution. I think we spent hours last week trying to wade through what it should be. So I'm not sure who's on first again with the messaging.
I haven't even seen that, and I haven't seen that email, so I'm a little busy here with two computers in front of me, so I think we can have at least some discussion. If you want to, you know, turn this into a proclamation, if that's what our county attorney is recommending, I guess it would change the format a little bit, but I think we have a. Go ahead, Ann.
This is an email that, for some reason, it's going to Mary Hobble, Ed Raber, Don Sherman, and myself. That he's been ill and he's not going to be probably at this meeting. He thinks it should be his recommendation that the measure be in the form of a proclamation. So I don't know where that leaves us today.
Well, it's the first I've heard of it as well.
All right, I think we have a resolution on. I think we can certainly talk about the issues if you want to hold off on taking action because it's not in the form of a proclamation. We would either, I'd be happy to schedule a special meeting to do that, or it would be done in conjunction with next Monday's meeting. I did ask Mary Hobble because I thought it was a little confusing, the language, and maybe Diane Freiberger can, and any other members of the Board of Health can help us with this. But in the first document that's in our packet, it says, because in the previous meeting, we've been told that this was a strong recommendation from the Board of Health regarding masks. And the word required, it says recommend that face masks be required. And so I thought it was a little confusing. So I asked Mary to prepare an alternate version that took out the word required and says, recommend that face masks it says strongly recommend that face mask be worn at all times by anyone attending, participating in, or working in an event that takes place on any county-owned property, et cetera, et cetera. So really the word required was removed at my request, and the word worn was inserted. So I just did that for discussion purposes, and I was under the understanding that we were not talking today about a resolution or proclamation for a mandate, but for a strong recommendation. And that's the discussion that I want to have. And if we want to have a discussion about a mandate, I'm willing to have that discussion, but I didn't think that this resolution, it was the way it was presented to me and previously discussed, was a strong recommendation. So I'll open it up for discussion with that.
This basically is trying to make in some kind of resolution or proclamation form what we voted on last week was joining with the Board of Health. It was the Board of Health's language. It was the language they used in their letter. And all I was trying to do, and that I thought we agreed to and took a vote on, was to join with them and make it more formal from the Board of Supervisors. That's it. So the language is from the letter.
Okay, so that, and I appreciate that, Ann, and that's the way I understand it as well. I guess I'd like to hear from Diane Freiberger and anybody else from the Board of Health if that was the intent. I'm okay with that, and I did vote for it, but I thought in reading it that it was a bit confusing. I actually have my original letter right here, and it says recommendation in 2 places, but it also has the word required. So I didn't want I didn't want any confusion out there. So Diane, would you like to weigh in?
I may be able to clarify this, or I may be able to confuse these a little bit more. But the motion that was made, and actually I made the motion, was to require masks of individuals that were county employees, or when an event was held on a county property or on a city property, and when event is hosted by either the city or the county. And then I had not seen the original letter. I had not seen any letter. So I asked our Chair Beshen to send me the letter, and I just have the one that you've recently received, where it says recommends. I was told, I questioned that because I know the motion that was made to require, which would be a mandate. And I was told that it was at the advice of the county attorney, that we could not mandate, but we could only recommend.
Okay, here's where, if you're wondering why I asked for a second version that I thought was a little easier to understand, and I didn't know about that background, Diane. I think that's something that the Board of Health needs to clarify then. And but I had a call from somebody asking that under this, if they were this fall hunting squirrels down in the Valentine bowstring recreation area, conservation area, hunting by themselves in the middle of the woods, would they be required to wear a mask?
With this would also come identifiers such as if there is a county employee such as a deputy riding in his car by himself with no one else in there. There are qualifications that can go with this, you know, as far as when specifics, but this was more directed at these large events that are being held all over the county, on county property, on city properties. And it's also, we are having events that are being hosted by the county and the city that even the employees are not wearing masks. And so the attendees are not wearing masks either.
Okay, I wasn't able to answer the individual's question about the hunting, you know, the hunting scenario. And I was kind of thinking that I didn't think anybody would be out in the woods looking for people wearing or not wearing masks if they were by themselves. But I wasn't able to answer it based on what we were acting on today, which is why I suggested and brought forward a document that took out the word required. And again, I'm willing to have the discussion about requiring masks, that type of thing. It sounds like the Board of Health is having that discussion perhaps this week. So I wonder, with the confusion between the Board of Health themselves, if we should be acting on this, and then we have the additional information that I don't have in front of me, suggesting that it shouldn't be a resolution but a proclamation from our county attorney. So I'd like to hear from the other two supervisors on their thoughts on the action that's before us today.
Supervisor Wickham, I'll just restate my position from last week and from this morning. So our Board of Health director just sent a letter requesting that the governor require a mask mandate throughout the state of Iowa. I certainly would reinforce that for Dubuque County.
Okay,
I'll repeat
we do have on the
myself again, which is that this was an attempt to simply do the right thing by supervisors to make formal what the Board of Health wrote. It's standing behind your own board and commission. That's all I was trying to do, is to take their same language and make it be over our signature or over the chair signature as a resolution. We haven't gotten better at this in the absence of the county attorney deciding what form this should be. So, you know, I think we've done what we've done. That happened last Monday. Maybe we should just move on to a new issue.
Okay, the variables to me are what was just stated by Diane Freiberger, the vice chair, today's acting chair, that this letter doesn't sound like it represents completely what the Board of Health action that was taken. So that's one concern I have. The other is, and again, I still don't have that email from County Attorney May about this, the format, whether it should be a resolution or a proclamation. If the resolution is improper before us, then I think we should table it and bring back in the form of a proclamation, is really what my point. So, and I don't have a problem and supporting what I voted on last week, but I do think there's been some additional information that has come out, and some questions, legitimate questions have been raised. But I still support the motion that you made. I just think there's more information has come out. So, and then now that it should be a proclamation. So,
Well, here's another piece of, you know, Chair Baker, last week, Tom Beschen, the chair of the Board of Health, after our meeting, wrote a note to me that just said, thank you for standing behind the Board of Health. Thank you for taking our letter to the next step. So I don't know about new information. This is a constantly changing fluid dynamic in all of these, in all of these manners with regard to the proper response to COVID. You know, I'm not suggesting we do more than just, like I say, maybe we've done all we can do, which is we voted on it last week, and we'll let CJ decide if he needs to do more.
Chair Baker, this is Diane Pape Freiberger, and I also need to add with the question regarding someone out hunting, we do follow CDC guidelines also. And that is, if you cannot social distance of 6 feet, if you're in within that 6 feet for more than 15 minutes a time, we follow those also. And so someone that is remotely out there, no one else around them, someone who's in a car, no one else around them, would be covered under the CDC guidelines.
okay, thank you, Diane. Okay, as chair, then I'm going to ask for a motion on the resolution joining the Board of Supervisors with the Board of Health encouraging the wearing of face masks. And I'm hearing nothing. So I think we need to either approve it, deny it, or table it.
I'll make a motion to table.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to table the resolution, and then we're open for discussion. Discussion, I think, would be that we bring it back as a proclamation. And I'm okay bringing back the original version after the discussion that we've had. So, okay, all in favor of tabling signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Carried 3-0. Okay, next up, we are shifting gears here. We go to item B on the agenda, which is a resolution approving the Watershed Program 28E agreement with the City of Dubuque and Dubuque Soil and Water Conservation District. And I know that Ed Raber has been working diligently on this. I'm assuming Eric Schmeckel is on. I just want to make sure that they're both unmuted.
I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the resolution approving the watershed program. We've all seen this and we've all had reference from both individuals. My motion is to approve the resolution.
There's a motion to approve the resolution. Is there a second? I will second it for the purpose of getting discussion going. So we're open for discussion.
My discussion, I'd like to hear from Eric Schmeckel and others that were working on this, including Ed Raber, on the changes and the general context, and what were some of the changes over the last week or two, and who was involved.
Very good. All right. Ed Raber, why don't you kick this off, and then we'll get Eric Schmeckel in there. And Eric, you can jump in anytime you want as well. So, Ed, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Baker. This is Ed Raber. I included a cover memo that summarized those changes. So Eric Schmeckel sent out about 2 weeks ago a draft of the 28E agreement for your review. That was also sent to the City of Dubuque, and the as last week's board meeting was approaching, or at least the time to submit, there were some questions that came up that we didn't have answers for at the time. So it was not on your agenda last week. Jay Wickham, Supervisor Wickham, had several questions. It didn't, those centered on ownership of some of the intellectual property and data and other things that went into that. I think that the changes that were suggested made the agreement stronger for our case, so I appreciate those. Eric worked those back through our other partner, the Soil and Water Conservation District, and the Attorney General staffer who represents them. We had to go back and forth several times, so it was helpful that we had a few more days. Communicated those changes to the county attorney as well as to the City of Dubuque. We've had small conversation there. The other one, the other major change was that because the way that the state had set up the 28E in terms of what they thought was legal, there is no policy board and technical advisory committee, as you might see in some other entities like DMATs or things like that. And so we've been looking for effective ways outside of the 28E agreement to make sure that there are input and feedback loops for this project with the partners that are a part there, which is the district, the City of Dubuque, and Dubuque County, as well as potentially some other partners throughout the county. So that is not in the 28E. As I noted in the cover memo that I sent along, I would encourage the county to direct staff to continue to work with you in a wider discussion with those other partners about what that might look like. I appreciate the input that Supervisor Wickham had in terms of what that could look like, and we've had many discussions about that, but that is the next piece. I believe that the partners that we've talked about this with see that as also important. Hopefully that once we are able to have those discussions, we'll be able to narrow in to something that we all are agreeing on and take some action to outside of this 28E to say we're going to have essentially a working group advisory committee that might have a mix of different kind of people, not a large one, but whether that's 8 or 10 or 12 individuals to provide feedback to the staff that's going to be conducting the work. I think that will be very helpful as well. So we just happen to be in an odd spot of that one part not being included as in the 28E and trying to find that workaround solution. So we are continuing to engage on that. I really appreciate all the work that Eric Schmeckel has done on this, and to any of the supervisors that have provided some feedback for us to chew on and try to resolve. So I also am comfortable with where we've gotten to. I think that this strengthens our hand.
Supervisor Wickham, what steps lie ahead? Does the city have to still review and approve this, and does the district still have to review and approve this?
That is correct, Supervisor Wickham. We have this on our agenda just because of the way things lie out. This is on your agenda a little ahead of the city of Dubuque and the district. I believe that they're planning to take action on the 10th and 11th of this month, next week.
Okay, very good. And then separate question would be, is, you know, I think it'd be important to have that future resolution that we talked about that describes the working group of really how we work together to be presented at the same time as the 28E. I think that would be important, and that's why I didn't second the motion. I think we're just, without that, I think you have a 28E without really the operational functions.
That's also my concern, and that's what makes this so incredibly difficult, because this whole program is to be farmer-led. The success lies in that. So I support the 28E agreement. I think our partners are soil and water district commissioners. That's what we've created in this language. And I think concluding the 28E agreement allows our folks to go forward and pursue hiring the necessary folks to start to take the hydrology results and put them in the field. So I think it's important to get the 28E agreement done. I am not biting on the entire 18, 24, however many people we're putting on a separate watershed board commission. I think when farmers see bureaucrats and they see government, they see things that they think aren't workable. And the idea for this was to be farmer-led, and we've had some great meetings with some stakeholders with FEMA. And ultimately our goal here is to pull down many millions of federal dollars to make our small contribution go much further. So I think if we don't move forward with a 28E agreement, we could be months before we're back in a position to look at a resolution forming a yet to be determined what that entity might look like, who those folks might be, and a 28E agreement. Those pieces coming together, my first thought was they should come at the same time, but we're holding up the actual work of getting people hired and getting plans in place to begin the work of the 28E agreement if we don't move forward on this piece.
Supervisor McDonough, this is Ed Raber. I concur with your statements. I'm sure that Eric Schmeckel will join in here momentarily, but there may be multiple opportunities for the input into this. I believe that we're still trying to tease through this, but I believe one of the concerns that Supervisor Wickham had was the actual parties, the city, the county, the district, needed to have some sort of working group on an ongoing basis, perhaps quarterly or something like that, to be able to interact with the staff and together, not just an update from the staff to the County Board of Supervisors, but together have some sort of interaction and update about how things are going. And I think there's been some concurrence that having this as a landowner or farmer-led initiative is also very good. And I think that there's also some desire to have some sort of outreach and input from that group, perhaps just on their own, that might be outside of that, that would be helping to drive and provide input, would also be there as well.
Right. And I would say, you know, you've been at this just a few weeks. I'd like to have Eric Schmeckel. Eric, I believe you're present. You've been working with us for a period of time as we created and drafted the idea. If you would like to address whether you think we should go forward with the 28E agreement today, that would be helpful.
Yeah. Let me give a brief update as far as the time frame and some of the things that were discussed both from the district and the city, as of this morning and as of last week with both organizations. First off, I do want to say I think the way it is laid out right now, the 28E agreement and a watershed working group resolution are two separate things. While I believe there's resemblance to the two, they're two separate documents, they're two separate things. So I want to make sure that is clear, that there's not one does not necessarily rely on the other. Although we, as we work through this and as we've had discussions, the idea of a watershed working group resolution is to effectively coordinate, communicate, and share input on the overall watershed program in Dubuque County that we're creating, and that we're continuing and ramping up efforts. As far as the district goes, the commissioners have been supportive. They've seen the latest revisions from the Attorney General. They are set right now to approve the 2080 agreement is on their August 11th meeting next Tuesday. So that's kind of the time frame. They have been supportive. They've liked the changes. Haven't heard from any of the commissioners specifically as far as the working watershed resolution and that the group and so forth. I know that's going to be kind of the next piece to kind of tackle as we work through this. The city manager of Dubuque met this morning and reviewed some of the 2080 agreement. Nothing on the watershed working group resolution. The one significant change that the city would like to see that would more directly impact their stormwater MS4 efforts would be to delay the hiring of an urban watershed coordinator until January 1st of 2021. The reasoning with that would be in line with the hiring freeze that the city has right now. He's very much supportive of this, very much, I would say, ready to go. I think the idea is to still present it to city council during August. However, because of the pandemic and the funding levels at the city, and let me remind you, everyone as well too, we still have an active 2080 agreement. This one would just supersede it. We're in the final year. So essentially, they would be looking at reducing that. The workload of that basically would end in January. They would enter the new agreement, and then the urban watershed coordinator would be hired. Now, that doesn't necessarily impact, I don't think, significantly on the county efforts and the district efforts as the agricultural focus as we move into fall and winter is going to, the focus on the performance-based conservation program and so forth. I don't see a big impact on our end as far as district county. I think we can still, get the county agronomist hired as soon as possible, as soon as the agreement is in place. So that was the one significant change. As far as future years, the 7-year agreement, everything else, that was all a go. No major issues with there. Some wording on the termination clause was brought up as far as, the feasibility, providing more of a 6-month notice if there's unforeseen budgeting or funding issues at a government level. There was some additional wording there on their end. And then finally, kind of some of the stuff related to more MS4 inspections and following City of Dubuque policy. So a little bit more unrelated to, I think, in my opinion, district and county efforts and the engagement that we're trying to move forward. But I did want to bring that up for discussion and see if there was any, what everyone's thoughts were, I guess, on that.
This is a significant change, Eric. Basically what we're saying is we're going to enter into a 2080 agreement and the city's not going to enter into a 2080 agreement. We're going to join with the commissioners, but they're going to join later. Not understanding. They are not coming they want to delay the effectiveness of their financial piece until after the first of the year, and then it's all dependent upon what their finances look like. What are they contributing? $100,000?
Well, I would say what they're looking at is not necessarily delaying the 2080 agreement. I think they're fine with still presenting it to council in August. They're delaying an additional stormwater. The majority of the urban stormwater coordination is city of Dubuque related items as it relates to MS4 management. That would be delayed for another 6 months. The city would be taking care of that internally. That's the significant piece of change.
Right. But I'd like to be able to go back through, I'm not voting yes today. I need to go back and see the language. When you drop out their requirement to start looking at the MS4, now we have county staff. Yes, I want to go forward with the agronomist. I want to do those things, but now I need to see if they're not in the game until after January 1st. What does that mean for us accomplishing our goals with regard to your shared position?
Well,
if Bear is stepping back to look at the language overall.
My share position would not be impacted at all from now until then. Like I said, we still have an active 2080 agreement right now that, has me doing kind of the urban agricultural collaboration fringe amongst everything. That would continue. Internally, they have inspections. They are handling the MS4 portion of there, but it would just essentially, they're just saying, delaying it as far as the urban coordinator. And I know Darren Muring is on the call today as well. He was on the call with the city manager this morning. If he wants to add anything to that to make sure I'm communicating that effectively. But yeah, I think as far as the approach, the content, I think they're ready to go. I think the support is there to get it on a council agenda during this month. Yet they're just saying to be consistent, I believe, with city efforts right now as far as it relates to the pandemic and so forth. That was something that they're considering.
Any other questions for Eric Schmeckel? Ed Raber, did you have anything else to add? I think you were still presenting when this question came up.
Thank you, Chair Baker. No, I appreciate Eric providing those updates about where the city of Dubuque is after they had a meeting earlier today. I was not a part of that meeting. I would only note to the supervisors that they're planning on taking action at that later. So I concur with what Supervisor McDonough had said, that you'd like to see what those proposed changes to the language look like and be able to more closely evaluate how that may change things.
This is Supervisor Wickham. So my question to Eric or the city, and you may not be able to answer this, but what I'm hearing is they don't want to move forward with some of the financial commitments, and the financial commitments are clearly stated that they're for this fiscal year that we're talking about. And so so are they going to sign the 2080 with 114,000 and then escalating in year 2 through 6, or not? Do they want that stricken as far as their financial commitment?
And Darren just chimed in as far as chat. The city would enter into this agreement with the other 3 parties in August. They would delay year 1 financial contributions till January 1st. So their city would be looking at 2 payments. One would be right now for the existing agreement, and then January 1st, there would be another payment that would come in. So the delay would be that urban watershed coordinator, which the funding wouldn't be needed. We wouldn't advertise probably for that position until, say, November instead of September. So we're looking at essentially a 3-month delay. Everything else in the agreement would stay on track. The agronomist position could get hired instantly. My position obviously would stay as it is and continue to move forward. That would be, and the majority of that work is what they're saying is city MS4 related work. It's nothing more than that. As they work through the pandemic and the hiring freeze, this is just consistent with their overall contracting, consulting, hiring, and so forth with services. So that's everything else in the agreement would stay the same. The other, you know, the termination clause, I don't think it was anything alarming, but it was something to the extent of adding some language in the termination clause that if for whatever reason council feels it has no longer due to unforeseen issues, if it's pandemic related or not, of funding, that they would look at like a 6-month notice to the agreement or something like that. So just more technical language on that end. But does that make sense?
Eric,
I think
yeah, I had a question, Eric. Dave Baker. So would the city's payment on January 1, 2021 be the $114,000?
No, it would be half of the 114, and that they would be looking at half the 2080 agreement payment for July 1st of this year, and then half of the 114 for January, and then July would be the 114 payment.
Let's put this in
the
writing.
agreement
For the following,
the time.
that would be for the
payments.
What's that, Jay?
The agreement doesn't state when they need to pay. It's just in our fiscal year. You know, July 1st to June 30th. There's another date in there about starting August 1st. So if you're strictly talking about literally cash flow payments of when they occur, if they're within the same fiscal year, we're fine. If you're telling me they're in 2 fiscal years, then I understand what you're talking about, cutting them in half. I guess maybe that, you know, we're the same government, and they're required to work in same fiscal years as we are as far as budgeting.
So
I guess maybe we just need more clarity on what they're looking for. It sounds like they're interested in moving forward with the agreement. If they're interested in signing the 2080 and it's a matter of cash flow and when payments occur, I'm fine with that. This seems just a little clunky.
Right. I don't disagree with you, Supervisor Wickham, but what they're also saying is they're going to continue under the current 2080 agreement that didn't expire yet. Then how does that go to the board, to their city council with a new 2080 agreement? I think we need to see some of this in writing and actually see what that actually means to the document itself. Because it doesn't all, it's not clear what it is they're saying. I don't think, I'm not understanding their message through 2 other people, one of them who's just contributing to the chat box.
the first payment, the $114,000 in the first fiscal year, which started this past July, that payment would be cut in half. Okay, so the rest of the agreement, years 2 through 7, would remain as is. Right now, they're under a current 2080 agreement right now of $50,000. So essentially, we would entertain through resolution during a council session that payment would be cut in half to pay for July through December. Then January, that payment, the other half of the 114 would be applied. And then the fiscal year 21 starts, we would start the full payment. I can
I'd just get this to the city and have them change it. We don't need to approve it today. Obviously, there's going to be changes to the document. So change the document, bring it back to us. There's no reason we should be continuing to hash this out in very slow fashion. So the city has changes. That's fine. Let them change it. Let's do the changes, bring it back, figure out the order of, of approval. If you want us to lead, it's fine, but we can't lead if other parties want to change it. You need to have all parties nodding their heads before, you bring it through the official boards. So get the lawyers involved and the city manager, and whatever they want to change, I'd be open to those considerations. I just need to see it.
Sounds good.
I am going to agree with Supervisor Wickham. I think it was wise asking for discussion on this before we jumped right in. As I said, I seconded it for the purpose of discussion. I'll be voting against this because the motion was to approve this. And then I agree that we need to see what the changes the city plans on making to this document. It's unfortunate that it came up at the last minute, literally, but we can't help that. So I'll be voting against this today and hoping that we can get things ironed out as we go forward. Are there any other comments, any discussion? Okay, the motion was to approve the 28E agreement. Those in favor signify by saying aye. And those opposed say nay. Nay.
Nay.
It is defeated 0-3. Okay, go back to the drawing board. And I do want to thank Ed Raber and Eric Schmeckel for their efforts. It wasn't their fault that the curveball was thrown at the last minute. So we'll move on. Next up on the agenda, item C, recommendation from the county assessor regarding 2020 allowances and disallowances for homestead credit, military exemptions, business property tax credit, and disabled veteran homestead exemptions. And I believe we have Dave Kubik on the in the meeting, and we can make sure Dave is unmuted, and we have Dave.
I am unmuted, thank you.
Okay, Dave, and why don't I'll go ahead and hand off to you and let you explain the recommendation.
Yeah, so since last January 1st, people have come in to sign up for these 4 credits or exemptions, and our office doesn't approve them. We recommend approval to you. Although the vast majority of our approvals, there are a handful of them that we're recommending disapprovals of, and we have stated why. And I would ask for approval of our recommendations. If you, with the disapprovals, you have to send a letter to them stating what your final outcome was. And our paper document and the digital file that we sent to you can be imported into that letter if you so desire.
Okay. Questions for Dave?
Dave and McDonough, thank you for being here. We tabled this from last meeting simply because the notice wasn't complete in the agenda.
I was on the line, but I couldn't unmute myself, so I apologize for that.
Is the resolution in our document? I'm spinning through the long list and I haven't gotten it.
Mine came to you via a cover letter. My recommendations.
There's not a resolution to it. It is normally under just consent items, so it's just a motion to approve his recommendations. It's not a formal resolution.
Okay, thank you. I see the document in the letter. Just wondering if there was a resolution with that. And that the error has been corrected, the omission?
Yes, it has.
That was in the, yes.
I will make a motion to approve the recommendation and communication from the Dubuque County Assessor as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the recommendation from the county assessor regarding 2020 allowances and disallowances for homestead credit, military exemptions, business property tax credit, and disabled veteran homestead exemptions. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried 3-0. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, next up is item D. It's a resolution regarding appointment of deputies, assistants, and clerks. We have a number of county auditor elections. Normally, and I'll ask Dawn Sherman, normally it says that these are like temporary positions, but I don't see that. And I'm assuming with the pay that these are temporary positions. Could we have
Yes,
somebody comment on that?
Yep, you are correct, Chair Baker. When you approve the requisition, all of the election workers are temporary. So they may be working up to 40 hours a week. They're hiring them now to get them trained as they ramp up to the election date. So all election clerks are temporary employees, and that's the requisition you previously approved.
Okay, and this is a resolution. I'm just asking for clarification. I'm using the Sunnycrest. We have 2 Sunnycrest positions. PPT means permanent part-time. PFT means permanent full-time. We don't have that regarding the election clerks. Do we feel we need to, can we approve this with the understanding, or do we need to amend the resolution to put a reference to that these are temporary positions? Okay. Okay, so I'm being told by Mary that the requisition would be the controlling document, and that we probably don't need that on this form. So and with the discussion we've had, I will accept that. I just wanted to point out that it's normally in a resolution if these are temporary positions, but if no one else has a concern, I think I'm okay with Mary's explanation here.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the resolution. Any additional discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Carried 3-0. Okay, next up, appointments regarding the zoning commission. And we have, this was tabled at the last meeting, and there was a question on the number of commissioners that would be allowed, and apparently we have verification that the minimum is 5, but it can be more than that. So the traditional size of the board has been 7, and I think that's a recommendation to go forward. So we actually have 3 vacancies and we have 2 applicants. We have application of Mr. Ron Breitbach, and we have the application of Ms. Kathleen Sherman. And then we have the zoning. Ed Raber has done some good work on getting us some background and some information on this, so it appears that both Ms. Sherman and Mr. Breitbach would be eligible for appointment.
This is Ed Raber. I don't mean to interject myself too much here, but I appreciate working on this issue with Tammy Henry. The one thing I would note is that in teasing out the vacant positions, one is a position that's been sort of vacated partway through, and the other two vacant positions are ones that start in July. So if the board were to make any motions about that, appointing either of these individuals, that you include the term that you're appointing them to, one that ends in 2024, or one that ends in 2022 in July 1st.
Okay, and then my understanding is the board has gender balance at this point, so both of these applicants can be appointed, and we should probably do them separately then based on the expiration of the term. So the first individual application that's listed in our information is Mr. Breitbach. Is there a motion on Mr. Breitbach? And then if you do that, I think we should specify which term.
I'll make a motion to approve the application of Ron Breitbach to the Zoning Commission for the term ending in July of 2024.
I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to appoint Ron Breitbach to a term expiring 7/1 of 2024. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, carried 3-0. Next up is Ms. Sherman.
Make a motion
And,
to approve.
Okay, I heard approve and then it cut out.
Are you ready for me
we'll
to make
need
a
to-
motion?
Yes,
I would like to make a motion to approve the application of Kathleen Sherman to the Dubuque County Zoning Board for a term ending on July 1st of 2024.
I will second that.
okay. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, carried 3-0. Okay, thank you. That is the end of the agenda, except public comments. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are of concern to that person, which are not agenda items. Please go to the podium, which won't be the case today, there's no one in here, or raise your hand on Zoom or in chat and give your name and home address. And please be aware that the board is limited in their ability to respond to such inquiries, and Iowa Code prohibits the board from deliberating or acting on items not appearing on the agenda. So we'll give an appropriate amount of time for that. Okay, I see nothing under chat, and I'm not seeing any hands raised. So, with that, I think our next meeting is a regularly scheduled meeting, so we would adjourn. I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to adjourn the meeting. It's 12:03 PM. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion is carried and we are in adjournment. We'll be meeting next Monday. Thank you all.